more troubled actually by what's going on in Afghanistan than what some of the testimony here might have led us to believe, and that's based primarily on what I've read and also on communications with military personnel over there, the direction that is going in. But also one of the biggest reasons I'm troubled by it is because of the importance of the region. This is where Al-Qaeda had a safe haven. The whole rest of the world, we can speculate about whether or not they can get a safe haven. We have no doubt that they can get a safe haven in this part of the world because they've done it before. Arguably, they still have it right now in northwest Pakistan, and that makes it, to my mind, the top priority in what we're supposed to be fighting here, which is the people who hit us on 9/11 and elsewhere, Al-Qaeda and their senior leadership. This is where they are and where I think more of our focus should be. And also, in talking to various, military personnel over there, there's no question that they believe we do not have enough troops over there. We do not have enough troops to pursue the Taliban when they pop up out of their holes. We do not have the resources over there right now to enable us to prosecute the war against them to the degree that they've had. And I've heard that from General McNeil. I've heard that from many, many different layers of folks over there that they are concerned about that. Now, I will agree with you. I think the Taliban has a heck of a time grabbing and holding territory right now. But the numbers that I think are troubling, the violence is up, and I, for one, never accept the argument that the violence is up, that means we must be winning because they're desperate. I don't think that holds. And second, the more troubling statistic is one you cited in your opening testimony, that support for the Taliban in Afghanistan is up. We had done a very effective job of crushing that shortly after 9/11. It's back up, and that is definitely worrisome to my mind, which brings us all sort of back around to the issue of Iraq and the balance. And I don't remember exactly how you put it, but more or less you said that Iraq is by definition more important than Afghanistan. Therefore, it gets the resources, and to some degree, Afghanistan gets what is left over. And not relying on your words for the moment, just relying on the numbers. We have 164,000 U.S. troops in Iraq, roughly. We have roughly 25,000 in Afghanistan. And yes, we get support from our NATO allies. Even adding them up, we're still about a third of what we have in Iraq. But I think we would also have to admit that the level of support that we'd like from our NATO allies isn't coming anytime soon. And I agree with Mr. Klein. We should not let NATO off the hook. We should try to keep the pressure on. And I also agree with you, Secretary Gates, that part of the problem there is they don't quite see our mission the way they should. I agree. They should, and we need to make that case. But right now it is what it is, and they're not bringing in the troops. And as between letting NATO off the hook and letting Al-Qaeda and the Taliban once again get a safe haven, I'll go ahead and opt for letting NATO off the hook. So the point is, the real question I have, we've decided apparently that Iraq is roughly 6 times more important than Afghanistan. That doesn't make sense to me, given how important Afghanistan is to Al-Qaeda and the Taliban, given the fact that they've had the safe haven there. So having made the statement, and I will disagree with Mr. McHugh a little bit, yeah, we can do more than one thing at one time. I understand that. But we're clearly choosing to make Iraq a vastly higher priority than Afghanistan. And I think that's a mistake. And I'm just wondering if you could address the issue of why Iraq is that much more important than Afghanistan, and if it's not, why are we dedicating so much more resources to it than Afghanistan?
Let me take a crack at that, and then invite the chairman to comment. First of all, support in those areas where there is increased support for the Taliban. Most of the intelligence that I've seen says it has more to do with a lack of proper governance from Kabul, and also corruption of the local police and an inability to provide governmental services to the people. In addition, another issue that has been controversial in Afghanistan has been the whole question of civilian casualties. Part of the problem is that there are from time to time civilian casualties, or innocent civilian casualties. The other part of the problem is the Taliban lies, and they just make it up if there's an attack about a lot of civilian casualties. So I think the increasing those areas where the acceptance of the Taliban, and admittedly it's gotten worse, but it was, as I recall, still 23% of the population or something like
27 that. 27 was the number I think you cited.
So I think it has more to do with governance than it does with a lack of sufficient U.S. forces. The other
But
problem...
that too is a resource issue, Mr. Zachary. I mean, to some degree, wouldn't you agree?
Well...
To some degree.
But if it's a resource issue, it's more a civilian resource issue in terms of training police and proper governance. The other aspect is in terms of the al-Qaeda safe haven. To the degree they have a safe haven, it's not in Afghanistan, where we would put additional troops if we wish to, but rather in Pakistan. And so the issue is, how do we work with the Pakistanis to make them more effective, and what can we do together, or perhaps independently, but that's clearly not going to be major force movements across the border. But there's no question that we have to worry about al-Qaeda operating on the Pakistani side of the border. But now let me, and I would say also we have the most significant U.S. presence in Afghanistan in Regional Command East, which is the part that borders these areas of Pakistan that are of greatest concern. But, Admiral?
The only thing I'd add to what I said previously is that the al-Qaeda threat in Iraq has grown to be significant and still is significant, although they're very much on the run right now. And we don't see, certainly in Afghanistan, I don't see the kind of comparable threat. That doesn't mean down the road that couldn't be the case, but certainly we don't see that right now.